All right, we are going live on Marfoogle TV right now. What is going on, guys? It is Adam AK Marf. I'm in a good mood because I guess our channel didn't get taken down. It's just, CME apocalypse. So that's a good thing, at least for now. But in China, they're not having such a good day. An entire section of China's newly opened bridge collapses. Now, we couldn't confirm if this was the one we just covered like a week ago, one of the big ones, and we think it's not because that one's even bigger. It's this crazy bridge they just built, but they just had this bridge, newly opened bridge, collapse and crashing into the river below. There is some speculation from people who probably shouldn't even speculate and probably don't know that this is some sort of sabotage or something like that. Maybe it's poor marksmanship, or I guess poor construction. I don't know. But it says viral footage captured the moment that the entire section of a newly constructed bridge in China's Sichuan province collapsed Tuesday, just months after it officially opened. It said that the 758-meter Hunke Bridge, about a half a mile, part of a major national highway linking China's interior with Tibet, gave way after the heavy landslides struck the surrounding mountainside, authorities in Mekong said. Now, I will point out that there's some interesting stories that just happened over the last couple days, including Pakistan and India had a back and forth attack of terrorism. And here's the thing, China is heavily involved with both India and both Pakistan. We had that event where, of course, back when they were talking about the Made in India thing, China was really pissed off at India because India is trying to slide in and say, hey, we have cheap labor. We can try to take some of the slack off of China back when they were doing that big, the not sanctions, but the tariffs. And the tariffs were going on. Our Vice President, Vance, was actually in India the day that they had a massive attack where 40 people perished. That started like a 2 or 3 day war where India ended up striking Pakistan and Pakistan struck back. And back then I talked about this. They did an interview of one of the Pakistan defense officials and he legitimately looked believable, like he didn't know about the attack that went on in India. And then, of course, that started this back and forth. Well, then 2 or 3 days later, the U.S. comes out and says, hey, we have information you absolutely need right this second. Stop your war. We give them the information, and then they call it good. Like maybe that information was like, hey, China, which is pulling the strings on both sides, that controls power grids inside of those countries, that has a motivation, not only, this bad blood against India in the sense that they are trying to steal their manufacturing, but also they have power grid control in Pakistan and a lot of weird things. So, the two events that just happened over the last couple days were pretty big, and then you see this bridge collapse. This is connecting dots that probably shouldn't be connected, and again, usually we're connecting dots that are really obvious and simple. This is a stretch, but again, not a half a mile stretch like this bridge. So we're going to talk about this and much, much more. We're going to talk about the largest warship that just arrived in Venezuela. This is the time that everything would kick off. Remember, they already have 8 warships. They already have aviation fleets. Some of the most skilled pilots in the world are right next to Venezuela. They have over 10,000 troops, and now they have a carrier strike group, including submarines, that just arrived off of Venezuela's coast. A mass mobilization has just happened. We were going to talk about that in just a minute. So stick around. You don't want to go anywhere. If we get cut, it is because of the CME or because we are just simply not in the YouTube God's graces tonight. Nothing in this show should be considered legal, medical, or financial advice. The views of the callers can differ considerably and do not necessarily reflect my opinion, Dex's opinion, or anyone else who works with the show. You should always do your own research and consult with professionals. The internet is full of fake news, so please take everything with a grain of salt. If you have not already, it helps us out if you end up going through any of our affiliates, and it helps you out if you end up protecting yourself against cybercrime. NordVPN is one of the best and one of the easiest to use. If you do not have a virtual private network, it protects your IP address, which is your online identity, which actually connects to your real address and everything else. It also connects to you. If you know anything about how they are data logging and basically getting your profiles down, you can prevent that by having a VPN. Nord is, again, one of the easiest.
Download it. It's like an on switch and off switch. All you have to do. Go to marfooglenews.com/VPN. Not only will you get a giant discount on this, but you will also be helping us. I appreciate your support, and I appreciate everyone that goes through any of our affiliates. Can't say thank you enough.
Welcome to Marfoogle News, the only news I choose. Welcome to Marfoogle News, we know that we love you. Welcome to Marfoogle News, the only news I choose.
What is going on, guys? It is Adam A.K. Marf, and this is Marfoogle TV. In a particularly good mood because we're live, and that was hard to do on Marfoogle News. We went live 4 times, and it did not go live. And we just found out from Wages that there was, during the half an hour of his stream and going into ours, that there was, it was at a G5. It was a big one. So somebody asked CME, coronal mass ejection or a solar flare. So there's massive solar flares, multiple. And again, somebody quoted out that my last thumbnail said massive solar flare. It should be plural, massive solar flares. And they are equivalent to a cannibal CME. So we'll talk about that at the very end as well. But again, we're going to bring in my co-host/internet brother, Dex James. What is going on and how are you doing today?
Well, hello, Adam, and hello, Foogle fam. I'm doing just fine. And hey, speaking of Wages, you know, we were all praying for his wife. He wanted me to tell everybody, he just sent us this note, Adam, that she got her test back and her biopsy was negative, and he was thankful for everyone's prayers, obviously the power of prayer.
And if you did not know, she had a cancerous growth on her ear, and that was from sun exposure, and she actually had to have part of it removed. And so that is a blessing and a half, and a lot of folks and a lot of Foogle fam ended up praying or sending their positive vibes towards her, and obviously that is working. So thank you guys. We appreciate it. Wages is a genuinely good guy. If you haven't checked him out, he is covering all of the solar events. He was covering it right before we were live on news. He follows this. That is his job. So he is going to be following it like we follow news. So whenever there is a solar event, I know that I'm going to be taken care of in that aspect because he always lets me know via text or call. If it's important, he'll call quick because hopefully, you know, we'll be able to call at all once the big one hits. And this one seems pretty big. It is a cannibal CME, meaning they catch up to each other and they eat it up. They eat up the others. They essentially, one will be faster than the first one and it will catch up and they combine and they create a bigger CME. Now, one thing to point out about this is they're saying that we may be seeing solar or aurora borealis in other places than we usually do. This is something that I grew up and never really saw. So it is getting weirder, as somebody pointed out in chat. It's just getting weirder by the day. Every single day, it is just weirder and weirder. It is 2025. You know, I just remember every year it's like, whoa, of course, you know, not surprised. It's 2019. If anything can happen. It's 2020. Anything can happen. It's year after year. It's like one thing after another. We're going through absolute hell. So at least we're going through absolute hell together. And we prep and we look at the things that could possibly happen as a community. And we're not afraid of any of these things. If you see anything that's scary on this show, don't watch scary movies. If you don't like scary movies, don't watch it. We're going to talk about this from a prepper standpoint. Again, welcome to Marfoogle TV. Ilea says, correction, CME and solar flare are not the same thing. No, and I misstepped when I said CMEs. No, thank you, and I appreciate that. Ilea, thank you, and make sure to check out Wages over on marfooglenews.com/friends, and Ilea is over there too, so make sure to go check that out. Again, a solar flare and a CME are different, and I won't try to explain it because I'm not an expert like Wages. But again, it is a different thing.
Well, one's X-ray. It gets here like really, really quick in like minutes, and the other one takes like
days.
1 to 3 days. So
yeah,
give it like a flash of a camera versus the the shot from say a gun takes longer to travel. Yeah, the light that's instant.
Yeah, we will experience one within like 8 minutes, and the other after like 3 days. So what is really crazy about the big one, like when I believe if they see the big one, I don't know. Did Wages say that this could potentially? I mean, this can't be the big one, right? It's X5.1, and they said it was G5 level, but like we would know days before it happened. So that's
you get the
crazy.
radio blackouts with the flare, which happens right away.
Yeah.
And that's the X-ray and the radiation and the auroras. And then the geomagnetic storm that follows later takes, a lot longer to get here, like longer, relatively speaking. So it's usually like a day to 3 days. That's the one that will cause the effect on the power grid, where the first one is more like radio blackouts and can have other types of effects.
So imagine if you popped a bullet at somebody with a walkie-talkie. The bullet immediately knocks out the walkie-talkie and the communication, and then 3 days later he starts bleeding. That's an okay analogy, I think. All right, and then make sure to go check out Wages. Again, creeping up on 62,000 subscribers on YouTube. He is over on the Friends page. Again, he is right here. So if you see this page, then you're in the right place. Again, yeah, X5 solar flare. That was 1 year ago. That was a big one too. All right, and then we have Yemen Houthis rebels signal that they've stopped attacks on Israel and the Red Sea shipping. Dex, what is this? Is this just like, empty words, or what's going on?
Well, look, they've said that they were doing it the whole time because of the war going on against in the strip there. So they are now signaling that they've stopped the attacks as the ceasefire is holding in the strip. So there was an undated letter to Hamas Qassam brigades published online by the group. The Houthis offered their clearest signal that their attacks have halted. Said we're closely monitoring the developments and declare that if the enemy resumes its aggression against Gaza, we will return to our military operations deep inside the entity and will reinstate the ban on the navigation from Israel and others in the Red Sea and the Arabian Seas. That was according to the letter. And it was from Major General Yusuf Hassan al-Madani, the Houthis' military chief of staff, as it reads. So for all intents and purposes, they're backing off at the moment, but sounds like they're ready to fire it right back up should, Israel re-engage in Gaza at any point.
Yeah, just to reiterate, we are closely monitoring developments and declare that if the enemy resumes its aggression against Gaza, then we will return to military operations deep inside of the entity, right? The Z entity. So, yeah, very, very, very touchy area there. And then UK cuts intelligence sharing with US related to illegal Venezuela action. What the hell is happening right now? Again, just to repeat that, UK cuts intelligence sharing with the US related to the illegal Venezuela action. Whose side are these guys on? It says, just as the USS Gerald R. Ford Carrier Strike Group entered Caribbean waters on Tuesday, it's been revealed that the United Kingdom has made the unprecedented and provocative move of cutting off intelligence sharing with the United States related to the suspected drug trafficking vessels off of Venezuela. CNN reports, so keep in mind that CNN or FOX or the three-letter agencies that keep us all in check is reporting this. It says, reports Tuesday that Britain cited that it does not want to be complicit in ongoing U.S. military strikes against alleged drug trafficking boats, as it believes the action is illegal, amounting to extrajudicial killings after the recent criticisms from the United Nations officials. However, it is said that to be a cutoff only in some intel sharing. So I don't know what some intel sharing means, but doesn't this feel like kind of like just a poke in the side? Like, I don't know. Dex, this doesn't seem, it just seems political, right? Everything is turned into a divisive moment.
Yeah, and tomorrow they'll have 100% tariffs thrown on them by Trump because they'll be mad at them for making a statement like this. I'm joking, but look, yeah, it seems a little
maybe
odd.
not.
Honestly, they could have just said, hey, we're going to stop telling you about, a satellite that we have up there. And we don't really need it because we have our own satellites. And then we can make the statement that we're cutting off. And then the fine print is some intelligence. But then they can get their word out there like, oh, we're better. They're doing something illegal. We're trying to support the UN. We're the UK. We're telling America they can't have their intel. When in reality, they're probably only cutting off a small piece of intel, but it's enough for them to make a large statement like this. And for someone like CNN to, bloviate it out into something rather larger than it might really be. But that's all about the optics. That's all about politics.
Yeah, this is of immense importance from one of America's closest allies and part of the Five Eyes intelligence sharing nations, which has time and time again enthusiastically joined in Washington's military adventurism abroad from Afghanistan direct to liberated Syria. So it is odd that we are seeing this kind of like all of a sudden like, we don't agree with this. What you're doing is wrong. It says to me that things might be a lot worse than we think. By the way, just my ADD kicking in. Rip Curl is here tonight, one of our most awesome mods. Obviously, super busy guy, so he hasn't been able to stop by. So thank you, Rip Curl, for being here. And thank you, of course, Ilea. And, of course, Wages, if you're still in the house. And Chance and Bobby Sue and Jammer and every other mod. Thank you guys for being here. Make sure to drop an M in the chat for our awesome, awesome mods. So... And this is an important point. For years, the UK, which controls a number of territories in the Caribbean where it bases intelligence assets, has helped the U.S. locate vessels suspected of carrying drugs so that the U.S. Coast Guard could interdict them. So, like Dex said, I think this might be something where a very specific satellite that's very good at finding these specific things, maybe they're doing. But why would they need that? They have, again, 8 warships. They also have a carrier strike group. I'm pretty sure they can find these speedboats themselves. And it's so insane to think that this is all to like snab little boats that are coming out of Venezuela. This is a much bigger operation, and maybe the presence and the 8 warships and the carrier strike group and the 10,000 troops and the aviation units and the training in the jungle that's being very publicly leaked. Maybe all of this is to scare them. And here's the thing. When we say, oh, this could be a war tomorrow, that's the thing. These actions could be the actions that are taken to stop a war. So this scares the hell out of Venezuela so bad that they comply on the back end with whatever they actually want them to do, right? There's a lot of backdoor deals that go on, and there's a lot of things that end up happening with, random here, with a lot of these operations and things like this. If Venezuela, kowtows to the U.S. in some way, or reassures them that they won't do something this or something that maybe that this won't happen. And I think we actually see that a lot more than we think. That, a lot of these things that our community talks about, it seems like it's imminent doom, and then all of a sudden it doesn't happen, and you think, oh, it was never doom. But I actually don't think so. Much like, the Cuban Missile Crisis, a lot of the times we come closer than we think to an absolutely horrible scenario. Now, we are close to this right now. If we go to war with Venezuela, Russia and other countries have already stepped in and said, hey, we might back them up. We might send them stuff. This might turn out to where U.S. is in a war against Venezuela, and almost like a direct kind of mirror situation. Russia starts out with man pads and then tanks and then, jets and then things, and sends them one thing at a time to fight the U.S. But we'll see. If we go into a war with Venezuela, it does not have to be really... it can basically skirt right around Congress right now because of the Senate vote and the things they've done to label this a terrorist action. They've directly connected the president of Venezuela to this terrorist organization. So they, under the national security kind of loopholes, they can do this without Congress in a lot of ways. Now, I'm sure there's a lot of arguments that say they can't, but that's what it looks like they're doing. Now, before we move on, especially with this, obviously, the CME and solar flares and everything that's happening right now, it's definitely a good thing to know about, and it is the perfect time to know about it. The EMP Shield is a device that will protect you, your cars, trucks, motorcycles, boats, generators, pretty much anything that runs. You have a device made by EMP Shield that will protect against not only CMEs and solar flares and a Carrington level event from the sun, but it will also protect you against a adversarial EMP blast. If an EMP blast goes off over the center of our country, they say it could knock down our entire grid. 90% of us would perish in the first year. That is because all infrastructure would go down, our supply chain, our water. water is most important. So really most important, food and water first, and then get yourself protection. If you've got yourself some stuff in your pantry, then I would highly recommend getting your cars, trucks, motorcycles, boats, everything that you want driving to get one of these on it. This is not something you can get at the store. This is the same technology and the same units, again, that are being used with the agencies like DOW, Department of War, Department of Homeland Security, FBI, Air Force. And this is the best time because now you get our $50 off. I told you guys to wait, which is really stupid from our perspective as an affiliate. But I told you guys that because there was all of these crazy sales happening. This is the largest sale in 4 years, 25% off on top of our $50 off discount. Ours is grandfathered in, so you get $50 off per device. So if you get 4, you're going to get $200 off, and you're going to get 25% off on all of the items on top of that. So up to 25% off on that Veterans Day sale. Make sure to go check it out. marfooglenews.com/EMP. And to all of you veterans out there, obviously, it is an absolute blessing to have you here. Make sure to comment down below. Again, thank you for being here. All right, and we're going to talk about that at the very end. Thank you, and thank you. All right, and then Pentagon's largest warship enters Latin American waters as the U.S. tensions with Venezuela rise. So as we have covered, this thing was on its way. It takes a while for it to get there. And again, the largest USS Gerald R. Ford just got to Venezuela. Dex, do you want to go over this and how just absolutely, on edge this is?
Yeah, certainly. So the U.S. Navy has announced that the USS Gerald R. Ford, regarded as the world's newest and largest aircraft carrier, has entered the area of responsibility of the U.S. Southern Command, which covers the Latin America. So it was assigned. We announced probably a week or two ago that it was assigned to that location, which meant it was deploying there, and the deployment of the ship. But now it's actually there. So it's a big difference in being assigned and actually showing up. So the deployment of the ship and the strike group it leads, which includes dozens of aircraft and destroyer ships, has been announced nearly 3 weeks ago, and its arrival marks an escalation of the military buildup. So what do we have? 8 ships there before this, and now this brings in an entire strike group on top of that, in addition to the aircraft carrier with its hundreds of ships. So
10, 11, 12, 13 maybe?
Yeah, I mean, the numbers are astounding. I would think it should easily be able to overwhelm Venezuela. You would think, and you would think that this wouldn't actually turn into a heated event. That if I was, running a country and big bad Navy of America was sitting at my front door, I would be asking to negotiate. But that we don't know. We'll have to see what's going to happen here, because it doesn't seem like that's the position of Maduro. It's not what he wants. Obviously, he's not in the position to negotiate with us because we have a $50 million bounty on his head and want to throw him in jail. So he probably will just take it to the bitter end. Would be my guess. And that's the sort of the position we're seeing, where he's called to arms all the people of the country. He's, positioning this as, America is bad and they're trying to be independent and we're trying to overtake their country, and rallying the troops, so to speak, as well as potentially even rallying his neighbors, as we reported yesterday with the words coming from Colombia about, going back to the days of the unification of some of those states like Venezuela, Colombia, and others to make a larger union in South America.
Now, it looks like that's a group of 6. They say 4 ships and potentially, so they're talking about, it does not mention the submarines. There's always submarines with these carriers. So the previous one said that it was a 6-ship contingency. So that would be 14 ships, 14 warships that are in Venezuela or right off of the coast of Venezuela right now. That's giant. And people are thinking that they're just trying to take pot shots at speedboats. Wake up, people. This is big. It says that it has the USS Gerald R. Ford, the flagship aircraft carrier, the USS Bainbridge, Arleigh Burke class guided missile destroyer, the USS Mahan, Arleigh Burke class guided missile destroyer, and the USS Winston S. Churchill, Arleigh Burke class guided missile destroyer. Those are the missile destroyers This composition reflects the group's recent transit into the U.S. Southern Command Area of Responsibility into the Caribbean. Earlier in the deployment, starting June 2025, the group included 2 additional destroyers. Okay, so maybe that was earlier into the deployment and those left. Oh, wow. So they were talking about 6 ships before any kind of submarines. And it says included 2 additional destroyers, USS Mitcher and USS Forrest Sherman, but current operations center on these 4 surface combatants. Submarines, if assigned, are not publicly detailed. So we don't know. They could have 3 submarines underwater. They're not going to show their face. So this is like potentially 14, 15, 16, 17 war vehicles over there on top of the jets, on top of the cargo planes, on top of everything else in the Caribbean. If you don't see the makings of a war, then I don't know what this looks like. I mean, this is big. But nothing's happening. It's all just a nothing burger. And then power grid warning issued to 11 states. Dex, do you want to talk about the 11 states entailed and what's going on with that?
Yeah, so with the CMEs coming in, and as Wages said, there was 2 flares earlier that were 2 days ago, and those CMEs are hitting us now. And then there's a big X5 flare that I guess is hitting us now, but its CME is following, and it's actually moving much faster, like 3 million miles an hour as opposed to 2 million miles an hour. So it hasn't hit yet. That's the one that's coming. But the warning that they're putting out is for a handful of states in the northern latitude: Oregon, Idaho, Montana, South Dakota, Minnesota, Wisconsin, Michigan, New York, Vermont, New Hampshire, and Maine. So the warnings have been issued for portions of the United States electric grid amid the forecasting of those strong geomagnetic storms. So the power grid stability underpins everyday life in the U.S., ensuring homes and businesses have reliable electricity. As solar activity threatens to disrupt electrical and communication infrastructure, officials must rapidly respond to the risk of large-scale outages and equipment failure. So they are warning people in those states, especially those grid operators in those states, to be ready for outages with transformers and things like that if they are inducting. And when I say inducting, what happens with an EMP or a CME is those ions are coming in, it inducts. The copper wire basically acts as a giant antenna, and it sucks up those ions, which then creates a large electrical charge, and that charge on the copper wire raises the electrical voltage to a level that's not supposed to be there, and things that are connected to it, like a transformer or your house or things that are plugged into the wall, all get that surge of energy that's much higher than it's supposed to be. And that's why things start to fry. That's why you need, the ability to ground out that surge so that it doesn't affect like your house or it doesn't affect a transformer. So that's what's happening. They're predicting that they potentially can see these effects. It's not necessarily like they're going to wipe out the grid, but look, if you take out a handful of transformers in a certain area in Michigan, you might see a massive power outage. I mean, it's not like everything just gets rerouted instantly. Sometimes it can. It just depends on where the locations are that may get hit or have an effect from this induction that happens on the copper lines from the CME that's coming in. And it's really the big one. And as Wages has talked about in the past, and this is something else you need to take in consideration, when you have multiple CMEs, think of it as like getting punched. When you get punched once, you might be able to handle that first punch because you knew it was coming, but it's the second punch that comes right after that sort of knocks you out. Well, we have this protection around Earth, this magnetic field. And when that first CMEs come in, the magnetic field protects us from it, but it also weakens it. So if a second CME comes in right after it, it's now coming into a weakened field. So you have a much stronger effect. Well, the next one that's coming in is actually a very strong CME. So it's coming in strong right after these two medium-sized CMEs come in and basically knock our field off a little bit. So if our field can recover, great, but it probably won't in that short amount of time to necessarily protect us as well as it could from this next event that will be coming through.
So this is something where we never know what's actually going to happen with the power grid or with things. But one thing that we have seen time and time again is many people report these little weird instances. Now, this very well could end up having that just perfect scenario where it ends up a lot bigger than it normally is. We'll see. But this is what, this whole channel is about, and what we're all about is prepping. And hopefully if you lose your power for a day or 3 days or 3 years, that you should be looking at that as anything else in your life. Life insurance, car insurance, phone insurance. If you drop your phone, you don't know you're going to drop your phone, but you might. You don't know if you're going to get in a car accident, but you may, right? And most likely you will. As far as a natural disaster, nobody likes to think about them. Nobody likes to, we all think that it's not going to happen to us. It's the kind of mentality that people, every single news interview where somebody was murdered in the house next door, they're like, I can't believe it happened here in a neighborhood like this. We live in such a quiet neighborhood. Nothing ever happens here. It's always going to happen there. And an accident is always going to happen. And a natural disaster is always going to happen. It's, Murphy's Law. So I don't understand why people don't, prepare for these kind of things, especially power grid related. Our power grid is one of the most archaic things about our technology and our current civilization. So have a backup plan. At least have a plan for family, especially if you have little ones, because you don't want to be stuck out in the cold without power. And then as NATO allies accuse Russia of hybrid warfare, U.S. joins the war games in Sweden focused on disrupting sabotage. Key kind of theme of the day. There's been a lot of sabotage lately. Rising number of mysterious drone sightings near airports and military bases. I knew, and everybody knew this when they just keep pointing out all of these sightings. These sightings, which, by the way, Dex, have you ever seen them post a video or a picture of these mysterious sightings above the airports or any of these sightings of these?
They're always small. They're like quadcopter size. So
but a picture of a small drone.
They're tiny dots. It's not like Reapers are flying by or the Jetsons mobile is coming through. But yeah.
Civilians post pictures all the time, and some of these have happened at night. Then you post how many pictures have we gotten? They're like, I think it's a UFO, and it ends up being a DJI drone, but they post the picture. Everybody's got cell phones. They've got surveillance cameras. In the daytime, you think you would be able to at least see a dot. Here's my point, and tell me if this is a good point or not. We have covered 100 of these stories in the last month, 2 months. None of them have posted video or pictures from the surveillance of any of these airports, anything. And the point I'm making is that, they are making a case here, and they continue to make the case that these sightings, that these things are disrupting. They're closing down airspace, which that costs a lot of money. When that goes up the chain, just closing an airport for an hour is a giant deal. That's cost hundreds of thousands, if not millions of dollars, probably millions, guaranteed millions. That is where it starts getting to the people that make decisions. And that's where people are like, this is costing us money. Let's do something. And then they start getting on the side of like, we need to fight back. You know what I mean? Like, Dex, we haven't really seen anything. We've seen a couple ones where they say this came over our border and they downed it. But even then they show the broken pieces of it and they say, oh, this has European parts in it and blah, blah, blah. But they're not they're not posting the evidence of it, which I guarantee if they're seeing sightings of this, and especially one of them was 4 times in an hour, then somebody's taken a cell phone video of it. Why aren't they being posted? You know what I mean?
Well, yeah. I mean, I guess I haven't actually seen any personally, but I guess we have to take some sort of assumption that they're there if they're reporting it. I mean, maybe they're not. Maybe it's just all made up. But at the same time, I don't live there, and I haven't seen any of it.
Well, that's the thing. I mean, we also believed that it was just going to be 2 weeks, right? Just stay in your house for 2 weeks. If you wear this, you'll be safe. I guess I'm hard. It's hard to believe the same people that just lie to us time and time again. And now this is something so drastically important. This is leading up to a massive world war, and people don't ask the question like, "Hey, where's the sightings? Like, where are the sightings?" Maybe somebody can do a documentary. Where are the sightings? Show me the drones. Do a game show. Just saying. Milos Schaefer, thank you, says, stay awake, stay aware, stay safe, get prepped. And then Josh T. Tommy, fellow veterans, thank you for your service. Wartime service is a sacrifice. God bless. And yeah, I was looking for one of my posts because I spent hours on it because it was the best put in words, my opinion on Veterans Day. And I talked about this briefly last night. It was close to midnight in some places, and we were talking about Veterans Day. And I just want to say thank you guys to every veteran here. Again, J-Pass, happy Veterans Day. Thank you for your service. J-Pass, thanks you. But my point was that everybody says happy Veterans Day, and it's become like an empty, like, oh yeah, thank you for your service. If you're a veteran, can you put in the comments down below, does the thank you for your service, has it become empty over the millions of times you've probably heard it? You know, does it just become a cliche like, oh, you served, thank you for your service? Well, you know, is there anything behind that? Do you feel like people actually care? And, you know, I think that more so families with military and veterans in their family, most definitely, I think, appreciate just a little bit more than others, especially families that have lost their loved ones or have gotten their loved ones back, but they're never the same. And that's one thing many of us point out, that when people come back, they never leave the battlefield. A lot of them are just stuck in that, and it's destroyed people. Most of the homeless people that I ran into, especially when I was younger, now it's more like people that are on that the blues and whatever else. But it's like growing up, every homeless person that my mom was friends with when she was homeless was a veteran. And I just thought it was really weird growing up, especially during those homeless times. Like every veteran was, every person that we knew that was homeless around the areas we stayed was a veteran. And I just didn't understand that. I never did. And it is definitely a broken system. But saying that is cliche too. People say, oh, it's a broken system. They should take better care of our veterans. But, you know, where's the action? Where's the outrage, I guess? All right. Thank you for your service, all of you. And you guys know we have a lot of veterans in our community. So we appreciate you. And thank you so much for coming back time and time again to get your news here. And then FBI seeks to unmask anonymous web archiving service owner. Now, you guys don't know this. This is on the back end, but when we show you these sites, and in fact, we just had a perfect example. There's like videos and pop-ups on almost every website now. In fact, if they're not tracing, tracking, or saying like, hey, can we track what you do outside of this? Can we put a camera in your house? Whatever they would like to say, they put videos and ads and pop-ups. Nobody likes pop-ups, but again, that's what almost every website, every news site does to make their revenue. So you see that. Well, archive essentially is people that not only can freeze frame that website, in a lot of ways they can use their anti-web and anti-ads software, and they can archive it without the ads and basically preserve that web. I'll let Dex explain this, but this is really weird. Today it did not work. And Dex, why do you believe that is so, and what's happening with this?
Well, yeah, so the FBI has issued a subpoena to the Canadian domain registrar, 2CALS, seeking to unmask the anonymous owner of archive.today, which is a popular web archiving service that's used by millions worldwide. So again, we use it not to necessarily prevent the ads, but it sort of locks the page in so that when we're talking about it, a lot of times these news pages will update. They make changes, and then all of a sudden, you know, we're talking about something, and it's not what we had seen or what we had planned. So we always try to archive what we're talking about when we do it, and that's how we use it. But it was down today. The subpoena dated last Tuesday and posted publicly on Archive Today's X account states that it's related to a federal criminal investigation being conducted by the FBI. So apparently the FBI is trying to investigate Archive Today. For those of you that don't know, Archive Today is an anonymous site. It was created by an anonymous developer. It's free. They've self-funded for a long time, since 2012, I believe. But the FBI is requesting comprehensive identity information from the domain provider, including the customer, subscriber name, address of service, billing address, anything associated that they can find against Archive Today. Beyond the basic contact details, the subpoena demands an extensive array of data, such as telephone connection records, including incoming and outgoing calls, SMS, MMS records, payment information like credit card, bank account numbers, internet connectivity, session times, durations, device identifiers, IP address. You get it. They're basically trying to get any and everything they can against this company or this person that's running Archive today. So a lot of people are now speculating, is there something going on? Is there something in the history they're trying to clear? There's not a lot of these archiving services out there. There's the Internet Archive, which can easily be wiped. You can put up a request and have your site removed. You can remove information from there. But this one thing, Archive machine today pretty much did not delete anything unless it was, like super criminal, like, the bad stuff related to children, right? Like they would remove things like that. But if you archived a web page, their philosophy was, hey, this is a snapshot in time. We're showing you what was here at that time, and it would live in perpetuity. So very powerful tool is now potentially going to be under scrutiny from the feds and potentially taken offline. It brought into question today when we went to use it, and it was down. Now, as of maybe 30 minutes ago, it seemed to be back up, but I don't know how long that will last, and we don't know what really may come of this.
What changed?
If they're really trying to find them, and if and why are they going after them? Is it just about ad revenue? I can't imagine that's what it's all about. Like, I can't imagine mainstream media got the feds to go after Archive today because people can not play a video ad when they're reading an article and sharing it with Archive. So
Dex, we got to point out that Wayback Machine had something happen to it a couple years ago too, right? Didn't they get hacked and something went down with that? And
they had a hack event where they were telling people not to trust the Wayback Machine because they weren't sure if the hack had been cleared yet or not. Yeah.
Well, and then there was something with, isn't Wikipedia? There were certain sites that kind of have a lot of history that they said things were getting wiped from the past in general, that huge swaths of internet data was seemingly history of our internet was getting kind of wiped out.
That's exactly what happens with the media. So when you think of a media website, they write these articles and they may keep them or they may not. And that article itself is a piece of history. Sometimes, it's legitimate. They update their website and they don't care about the articles that are 10 years old when they were writing about whatever topic was popular 10 years ago. They've updated the website and all they're going to do is cover the last couple of years of news because, all the old stuff is not getting clicks and generating revenue for them. And they're all about the ad dollars. Otherwise they can't be in business. Right. So, that is sort of by, it's an unfortunate circumstance of the way the business model works that old news is not being preserved for everyone to see in perpetuity. It gets washed away. So therefore that information is now gone and lost forever.
When you have government interjecting or when you have agencies that are fiddling with it, you wonder, is there something in the Wayback Machine or in the archives that essentially they don't want you to see, that maybe there, it's just blaringly right there, but they realize it and they go, well, no, some people will go, oh, well, nobody's going to look back to this very specific day to when this article said something that wasn't supposed to be said, but people do. Internet sleuths are one of the craziest breeds of humans, and some of you right now out there are those people. You do look back. We look back. We archive everything that we have as far as all of our shows have the links for those days. And what's crazy is I'll go back to a show 3 or 4 years ago and I'll go to the link we have for that article and they have wiped it or they've used that same page. They'll just change the story on it to something new on Tuesday, because they're basically utilizing that same page. If you go to CNN or some of these sites that you'll have a story, it'll be wrote a certain way, and then you'll go 2 hours later, they'll change the writing, they'll edit it, and then it will show up as current. Or it will be a timeline, and that same link will go down the line, and you have to search way up for the live timeline. These things are also a good way for the government to cover up any accidental leaks, any kind of information that wasn't supposed to be out. And it makes me wonder, over the last 48 hours, was something happening where now FBI is like, hey, we got to go after these guys and we got to tell them. What if today it was down, FBI was quick, and what if it's this simple? What if they were trying to get rid of something and they were like, hey, we need the owner of this right now. They put out this mass thing because now it's up. It's up again, right? What if it was as simple as, we need to get hold of the owner. He needs to take something down and we need to get a hold of him now. Right? And this anonymous guy, they don't care if he keeps running his thing as long as he complies and gets rid of whatever they want. Maybe that was the conditions of him, continuing the service, and it's now back on. Just an observation there. Yeah. And then thank you, JPass, and all vets and all that you do and have done. God bless. Wages World, thank you. And thank you for the support of not only independent media, but thank you for obviously supporting our vets. And then Josh T, thank you so much. Again, Milos Schaefer, and so many more in the chat. So let's go over to live chat. Thank you. MJ, Stealth Mode. Ryan in North Carolina, thank you. Rashid, what is happening? See her think. And we've got, of course, members, M. St. G, Stealth Mode, MJ, J Pass, Angelo Perfelli, thank you. M. St. G, again, thank you for being here again and again and again. All right. Nothing is easy to research. It's on purpose. It's over. Yeah, it's getting there. And then before we move on, this is a huge sale on Harvest Right. If you haven't heard about freeze drying and how to do it, well, Harvest Rate makes it super easy. This is a machine that makes it a kind of set it and forget it kind of scenario. And again, this is one of the highest quality machines on the market. In fact, during 2019 and all of that fiasco, people were waiting on a wait list to get their hands on ones, or buying them at exorbitant crazy prices to try to get them, because people were panicked and people were being dumb. You don't want to buy things last minute like toilet paper for $20 a roll during a disaster. You want to have a stockade of them before the disaster. That's the point of prepping. So again, Harvest Right is doing a massive Black Friday sale. So you usually save a good chunk with our affiliate link, but now you are going to save even more. Go to marfooglnews.com/freeze. You can get up to $1,000 off on the freeze dryer. It is their biggest sale as well, as far as how much that you are actually saving. Again, and free shipping, and again, discounts on all of their freeze dryers. It is a super simple thing. It turns into a hobby for most that do it. It is an absolute pleasure to do. You can almost freeze dry anything with these machines. So go check it out. Harvest Right, marfooglnews.com/freeze. All right, and then Putin's Mad Max infantry. So this is pretty wild, but we covered this briefly over on Marfoogle News. Putin's soldiers supposedly, and again, supposedly we say that because, now in the day and age of AI, this could be propaganda to scare the crap out of Ukraine. But they're saying that there's video and pictures of these Mad Max Ford Tauruses, half cannon, half Ford Taurus, half motorcycle, half rocket launcher, brigade that was rolling through the fog into the front lines with Ukraine, and with debris all over the road and fog, that these guys were just straight out of Mad Max. Now, this is something, like I said on the other show, like if this was America, if this was the US, this would be badass. I mean, this would be the plot for a cool movie. But this is Russia, and you have to wonder, is this... I wonder, is it AI generated to scare the crap out of people? Because this, if you were on the front lines, this would be spine tingling. Seeing half car, half cannons coming at you, just throwing all the junk at you, whatever they can, and rolling through the fog, and you see these Mad Max motorcyclists and freaking half car, half machines. It's freaky. Dex, obviously, this is crazy looking. I always have to wonder now, because they can make any video look real now, including bad cell phone footage or Ring doorbell cams. Was this legit, and why?
Yeah, I can't tell you if it's legit or why. I think, but it's definitely less about the words and more about the pictures, because the picture's worth 1,000 words here. And this is some pretty ominous looking scenery coming out of the war torn area. I do know that the particular area, the Pokrovsk in the Donetsk region, one of those cities, is has been rumored now to be more of a stronghold for Russia, and it's one of the areas where they think Russia is going to take a big chunk of land out of or take over control of that city from Ukraine. So if I've got the name right, I think that's the name of the town. But yeah, these pictures are pretty ominous coming out of that region.
Yeah, they said that there's a lot of them stripped of doors and windows, driving along with a road littered of debris, with cannons strapped to motorcycles, or launchers strapped to motorcycles, huge 50 cals on bikes. It sounds like I hate to say this word, but Dead Baby Downhill. It's a local bicycle run that happens here every year, and there's bicycles that do this kind of stuff for fun, like put cannons on things and fake, tank bicycles and things. That's what it reminds me of. It's straight out of Mad Max. All right. And
well, it's also a tactic too when you think about it. Like, if they were rolling through town with a convoy of large military vehicles, they're just going to be, drone fodder, right? Now we've seen and we've heard over the last, 6 months now, that the motorcycles were becoming a much bigger object for the use of the Russian soldiers, because they can get around, they can move faster, they're less susceptible to the drones because they're a smaller target. Seeing that, it looks like some adaptations. And then when you think about just moving regular cars around, certainly it doesn't have armor on it, but at the same time it doesn't stand out like a giant tank.
I want to pull this up because in World War I or II, and I'm trying to remember which, you guys can correct me in chat, I'm gonna motorcycle, there was some cool with tank cannon. There was a Vespa. That was right. No, it was a Vespa. Dude, this was one of the coolest inventions here. I feel like we covered this somehow, like talked about it in some way. There was a Vespa 150. Yeah, this is an anti-tank Vespa. Those words should never go together, but they do, or at least they did. This is the Vespa 150 TAP or TAP, right? This is freaking awesome. Who doesn't want this Vespa? And this is not a joke. The thing is that this was, you're sitting on a cannon. Insert bad joke there, right? This is absurd, but I forget what the reasoning was, but it's pretty obvious. You could get it in and out anywhere. It was easy to transport, and it would be able to fast roll up. It could come out of a trail and then, hit a tank. It's actually very, very smart. I'm surprised that we don't see more stuff like this with the technology we have. If they can strap a cannon on a freaking Vespa, they most definitely can do it on a bigger, weightier motorcycle that could also get through woods and trails and all sorts of things. So it's no surprise that this is happening today. What do you guys think of the Vespa Militaire, the TAP 150 or whatever they call it? Would you want this? I want one of these, like the old ones. I would love to have that on display in my front yard, 24/7, pointed towards solicitors. Anyways, thank you guys for coming. Thank you, mods. Thank you, Rip Kroll, if you're still here. Thank you, Bobby Sue. Thank you, Jammer. Thank you, of course, the wonderful Ilea. Make sure to go check them out over on marfooglenews.com/friends. All sorts of awesome people over there. Dex, thank you so much for your service tonight.
Much love. Great job, brother.
And most importantly, thank you to all of the veterans tonight. And I just absolutely appreciate your sacrifice for your country. And that doesn't mean you have to die on the battlefield. Part of you may have died on the battlefield, whether you perished or not. So I do appreciate you. And from wherever you're watching, And hopefully it's not from the streets, but I know that a lot of you have been affected. We have gotten some letters from some veterans on the streets, and I'm praying for you, and I appreciate what you've done. And I hope that more people do understand that it's not just a cliche, that it's not just a empty gesture, that we really do care. So thank you, and I appreciate you. Thank you, everybody. Make sure to go over to the website where you have a full bibliography of every single article, tweet, video, picture, document that we are showing you here today. That is, again, at marfooglenews.com. You'll just look for today's thumbnail, and, again, scroll down, and you'll be able to see all of that right there. All right, guys, have a great night. Be safe, be prepared, and Marf out. It is now time for the shoutro. It's not an outro. It's not a shout-out. It is a shoutro. Wages World, it looks like you are our top supporter tonight. With Josh Taylor being number 2, Ilea being number 3, M. St. G being number 4, James, Briarpatch, D. Griffin, Shirley Millward, C. Here Thing, Kathy Paina, WIS Jen, Nanny Anderson, Angelo Perfelli, Eagle Cash, NT Gangster, Tracy Q, Susie Q, Array, Woman of Wonder,